Studio One is where you can do anything that you want to do. Sky's the limit.
What's up? You got your boy Dyreck, aka Native Shades, reminding you to like and subscribe, because today we're gonna be talking about Studio One. What had happened was, so imagine being so cool that your high school gives you the key to the auditorium where all the music equipment lies. That's how cool Jim Odom was. Imagine being so cool that because of it, you get a scholarship to the Berklee College of Music in Boston, Massachusetts. That's how cool Jim Odom was. Imagine being so cool that the rock group Louisiana LaRue decides to grab you as one of its members and take you on tour. That's how cool Jim Odom was. But also imagine being so cool that RCA decides to drop your rock group around 1984, and now you're stranded of thinking of what to do. Yeah, that's also how cool Jim Odom was. Well, that's kind of where we start this one. You have a musician, Jim Odom, a guy from Louisiana known for playing guitars, like a jazz guitar. All of a sudden, his career took a turn for the worse, I guess. Well, not really. Most of the band members decided to go their separate routes, and they were pretty much successful in their fields. But he was more into the nitty-gritty of different electronics and everything like that. So Jim Odom, for about a decade, was just grinding out and trying to figure out what he wanted to do. He knew he was really into electronics, but he didn't know where it would take him. So, as it turns out, around 1995, he decides to go to NAMM with a buddy of his with an idea. And the idea, called the DCPA, which was an automation system for mixing an audio live. So he didn't really know if this unit was gonna pan out. Matter of fact, when he went to NAMM, they put him all the way in the basement. You had all the big boys there, Yamaha and Roland, and they was coming in there like, hey, you guys get out of here, scram. This is our booth. And Jim Odom and his partner was like, oh, okay, well, how about this booth right next to you right here? And they was like, no, that's our booth too. And he was like, oh, okay, well, how about the booth next to that one? They was like, no, that's our booth 3. So Jim Odom was like, what? And they was like, yeah, these are all our booths. This whole floor. This is what you call success. Now go down in the basement. Scram. So Jim Odom and his partner had to go all the way down into the NAMM basement in Anaheim, California. It was nerve-wracking at that NAMM show in '95, but as it turned out, he was able to get top 10. Now I know some of y'all's like, top 10? Well, that ain't all that. Couldn't he get like top 3 or top 5 or something like that? But this is top 10 out of like 800 different crews, So fast forward a little, he decides to start a company in Louisiana, and the company does pretty successful. It actually gets a chance to go overseas and build a part of its line in Ireland and also in China. And the name of this company was called PRESONUS. So now they were in the mid-2000s and technology was advancing. They were already used to selling interfaces, microphones, and monitors and stuff, but they wanted to get into the software space because they knew this was going to be the wave. So with one visit in Germany, they ran into some developers, some former programmers of the actual DAW Cubase, Matthias Wan and Wolfgang Kundros, who back in the early 2000s had a DAW called Crystal Audio Engine, a free DAW for PC. And they was like, hey man, we have an idea to start a software company. We just need the financial backing to help us. So Jim Odom and his partner was like, okay, yeah, we'll back you guys up. And like that, Studio One was born. You were getting unlimited tracks and plugin instances. Matter of fact, you were getting 27 bundled plugins in the unit. What DAW came out with 27 plugins for you? Like most DAWs that have like maybe 8, 10, maybe 12. Studio One was giving you 27. You were getting a time stretch algorithm that any track that you put in could sync to the tempo of the BPM. Studio One worked on Mac and PC. Both families. You didn't have to choose. A lot of the DAWs back then, it was either one or the other. Studio One had a controlling feature which allowed it to learn your MIDI controller. It would learn all the buttons, the sliders, the knobs, and you could map it to like your plugin or, the mixer or something like that. And it'll stay mapped. Meaning, let's say you turn off Studio One and a week later you use it again and you bring up the same plugin and have your MIDI controller, whatever, connected to it, it'll remember what you did and it'll be still mapped to those same buttons, knobs, and sliders. That's amazing. And at that time, you got a free version of Studio One, a limited version, whenever you brought a PRESONUS audio hardware interface. Just beautiful. So a lot of people purchased Studio One and fell in love with it. They were in love with this DAW. Like seriously, Studio One's sound saved careers. Like it saved professional mixing and mastering folks' careers. You'd be sitting down as an engineer, in your studio working as a mixing company, and your boss comes in like, "Hey, Gregory, yeah, we're getting a bit tired of you, man. These last couple of records you mixed was trash. We're deciding to get rid of you." And you're feeling all bummed out. You're like, "Oh man, I gotta, search for another job now and everything. Damn." And you're like, "Hey man, I've been working here for 9 years. Though 9 years, I've been working here for 30. So you're not telling me a thing." And you're about to gather your things up to leave. And no, don't leave so soon. Before we get rid of you, we want you to train this new guy, this young guy, 21 years old. Yeah, he's gonna be your replacement. According to this contract, you need to finish this day. We want you to train him." And you're feeling all bummed out that you gotta train this guy and he's a prick. You're like, "Oh man, I gotta train this dude." And then all of a sudden, Babyface comes walking through the door into the studio. Everyone stops. And he's like, "Yeah, I want to speak to the person that mixed this song." And the boss is like, "Yeah, it's that guy right there. Don't worry, we're getting rid of him. All his mixes were trash." And Babyface is like, No. This mix was one of the most amazing mixes I've ever heard in my life. I want to hire that guy. Hey, what's your name, buddy?" You're like, Gregory, I'm gonna make you a multi-millionaire. The guy's like, "What the heck?" Not knowing that you didn't do anything special in your mix. All you did was purchase Studio One, load it up in your computer, and just mix in the software and just rendered the project out. It sounds so incredible. People think you're a musical genius. I'm not lying. This happened to folks that use Studio One. Studio One has always been trendsetters in their field. Like, as far as the whole drag and drop thing. Before on other DAWs, you'd have to go through like 3 menus and stuff to go to your VST part, and then you locate your plugin, and then Studio One, it was just, everything was drag and drop. You just, at the right of the screen, you got a list of your plugins, just drag and drop them right into the workspace. You can drag and drop effects right into the workspace. They just had a quick workflow, and it was rock solid. Like, Studio One didn't crash. It would be rare times that it crashed. I don't want to mention some other DAWs, but some other DAWs was crashing like an 18-year-old on New Year's night. Studio One though, rock solid. Now, even though this was a pretty good software, Studio One had a tough job ahead of them. And that was because they started out pretty late. Like most of the other DAWs started out way back in the 90s or early 2000s. Studio One came late in the game, really. This is one of the more recent DAWs. They came out in 2009. And by that time, everybody was pretty much comfortable with their DAW. Like, if you were using Pro Tools, you were just comfortable on Pro Tools. If you were using Logic, you just like Logic. If you were using Reason, you stuck to Reason. If Ableton was your thing, you stayed on Ableton. And there was no moving. You know what I mean? It's like that sexy new girl in the neighborhood or the sexy new coworker. She might look good, but you're not gonna leave your wife for her, right? But Studio One did get enough people to convert. And now Studio One even has some more uphill battles going their way. Allegedly. Recently, Studio One was purchased by none other than Fender. Can you believe it? Fender, a guitar company. I mean, they used to, make Rhodes pianos and everything back in the days, but since then, they've been jamming on guitars ever since. And they recently purchased Studio One. Now, some people are skeptical. They're really worried. They're like, oh man, Studio One just got brought by a guitar company. These guys are gonna run Studio One down to the ground, basically. They're thinking Fender won't even care about the Studio One community or the Studio One environment, the software, period. They're thinking Fender's gonna be like, oh, all right, guys, we just brought PRESONUS. Let's see how fast we can tear it apart. But the verdict is still out. Some folks think nothing will change. Everything will be okay. Studio One will continue to get their updates and be the innovative DAW that it is. But some people are worried. Some people are shaking in their boots. I think it just depends on whether Fender is going to adapt themselves in the Studio One environment and community where beat makers and producers reign supreme. Or is Fender going to say, no, you're going to come into our community, PRESONUS, where guitars reign supreme. You know what I'm saying? So what do you think? You think it's going to work out for Studio One and they're still going to be the innovative DAW that they are? Or is it downhill from here? Let me know in the description. So that's PRESONUS Studio One. What had happened was... So this is your boy Dyreck, aka Native Shades, reminding you to go down low in the description and get that MPC 1 Hidden Strategies, where I'm giving you a free MPC 4000 sound library. It doesn't exist anymore. Over a gig of sounds. You know what I'm saying? Put that joint on your MPC 1 and you are good. So this is your boy Dyreck, aka Native Shades, reminding you to like and subscribe. And I'm signing off.